Please be seated. There is a well-known saying in Mexico that my mom always told us whenever we injure ourselves or whenever we were sick. She will put her hand on us and she will tell us that everything would be fine and that eventually we will heal. He said in Spanish, sana, sana, colita de rana. Si no sanas hoy, sanarás mañana. Okay, this is I'm going to do the English translation, what I did myself. In English is, heal, heal, little frog tail. If you don't heal today, you will heal the next day. Got it? Heal, heal, little frog tail. If you don't heal today, you will heal the next day. That's my own translation. I really don't know what is the meaning of the frog tail in this phrase, but I guess it rhymes, right? Sana, sana, colita de rana, si no sanas hoy, sanarás mañana. It was always with a touch that we receive assurance that we will be okay. There was always hope that everything will be fine. And I personally do not know anyone who does not want to be well or healthy. I personally do not know anyone who does not want their lives filled with purpose, meaning, and happiness. I personally do not know anyone who wants to suffer or be sick. This is never what we want for ourselves, right? This is not what God wants for us. God does not want us to suffer or to be sick. God wants us to have life, and life in abundance, as the sacred scriptures remind us. But many times, we cannot control what happens around us. And what is interesting is that many times we cannot control what happens within our spirits, our minds, and our bodies, right? And then, when we cannot control what is happening around us or within us, we can be dragged into thinking that we are unable to transform or change ourselves or our surroundings. And we may be tempted to admit that nothing can be done. Yes, the loss of control, the uncertainty, is one of the mysteries of life, perhaps. How many times they can paralyze us and blind us from seeing any new possibilities. And they can make us lose hope and faith in ourselves. In the gospel, that we hear today, what we see is the exact opposite of this. As Jesus was eating at the house of Matthew, the tax collector, a leader of the synagogue knelt before Jesus, begging him to visit his daughter, asking him, "My daughter has just died, but come and lay your hand on her, and she will live." We can only imagine the despair of this man, knowing that he is not in control. His daughter just died, and he desperately asks for help. He doesn't know whom else to turn to, except to the one in the region of Galilee, known as the miracle worker, the one known for casting out demons and curing all who were sick. Yes, his daughter is already dead, but he is not hopeless. He knows deep in his gut that his daughter will live again. And Jesus responds by getting up and following the leader of the synagogue to his home. The gospel tells us that on their way, suddenly, a woman with no name appears. She has suffered for 12 years with a flow of blood, implying a menstrual disorder, perhaps. And with the conviction that she will be healed, she comes up behind Jesus and touches the fringe of his clothing. What does she have to lose? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. She has already lost so much. In the Palestine of the first century, a woman with a condition like this, without a doubt, would have been a social outcast. Her condition made her ritually unclean, and probably she would have had to live her days in isolation, separated from her family and her village. Yes, hidden in this particular story is not only the reality of illness, but also the reality of social alienation and isolation, which is devastating for any human being. Just like the leader of the synagogue, this woman has hope. She knows deep in her gut, that she is going to be healed, that she can change the outcome of her misfortune. And she has the courage and the desire to reach out. And what was Jesus' response after being touched? He was not surprised at all. And without hesitation, he says to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Your faith has healed you." And at that moment, she was healed. And the miracle was made manifest. Albert Nolan, a South African theologian, points out in his book, Jesus Before Christianity, that over and over again, Jesus said to the persons who had been cured, "Your faith has healed you. Your faith has healed you." Which, according to him, leaves Jesus out of any of the contemporary categories of physician, exorcist, or wonder worker. Basically, what Albert Nolan is telling us is that Jesus is not the one who has healed the sick person. That Jesus is not the one who has healed the sick person. Just think about it for a moment. Jesus is not the one who has healed the sick person. Jesus never said either, I healed you. Jesus is not even saying, at least not explicitly, that the person was healed by God. Your faith has healed you, he says. Wow. In other words, there were no magical formulas or magic wands. This kind of healing was a manifestation of the power of faith. Yes, faith for Jesus is an almighty power, a power that can achieve the impossible. But we have to be really careful here. Because many times we assume that just having faith is all we need. We assume that simply believing is what we need. But there is more. And there are many definitions of the word faith. And there are many ways to interpret what it means to have faith. And for me, my preferred interpretation of faith is that faith for me is a gift received only in conversation with the Holy. Faith is a gift received only in conversation with the Holy. As I learned with William Countryman, an Episcopal priest, in his book, Living on the Borders of the Holy, faith is just a gift. But the word in Greek that the gospel writer is using here for faith is pistis, which is also translated as trust. 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 And trust is the assurance, reliance in something or someone. It's a sure reliance. Jesus was able to do things he did because he put complete trust in God. Throughout the Gospels, miracles are not intended to be a rewards for people's faith, as some modern faith healers claim. The gospel does not say, only if you believe well enough, you will have miracles. Or, if you don't have miracles, it's because you do not have enough faith. And we need to be careful, really careful, because this can be used to induce guilt. We have to be really careful. This can induce guilt. And this is not the purpose of the gospel. In this gospel, we can see in the example of the leader of the synagogue that sometimes the faith or the trust of others produce the healing instead of the one being healed. Yes, faith is not always necessarily a precondition for receiving healing. You do not have to have faith all by yourself. Healing is also a group activity. It's also the embrace of a parent. It's the prayer of your loved ones and the prayers of your community. Faith in this case is a gift in conversation with the Holy that receives the act of God at its response. Faith is a gift in conversation that receives the act of God at its response. But to receive this act of God, there is a requirement from you. There's a requirement, there's a prerequisite. You need to desire it. You need to desire it. You need to want it. Just few verses ahead of this gospel, in the same chapter, two blind men following Jesus were crying loudly, "Have mercy on us, Jesus." In a way saying, "Jesus, we want to be healed." And Jesus asked them if they believed that he was able to do this. And they say, "Yes." Then Jesus touched their eyes and said, "According to your faith, let it be done to you." Yes, to receive this act of God, you need to want it. As Richard Rohr reminds us, God does not come unwanted. God does not come in any situation uninvited. God is always present, yes. But if you don't expect or want to be healed or desire, you cannot let God in. You need to want to open the door to God. So I wonder, what do you need healing from? Do you need healing from anger? From fear? Resentment? Betrayal? I wonder, what do you need healing from? From violence in our communities? From the forces that corrupt and destroy what God has created? I wonder, what do you need healing from? From suffering in your spirit? From suffering in your mind? From suffering in your body? If you are suffering, do you have the desire to be healed? Do you have the desire to be whole? Trust and believe that healing is possible for you, for your loved ones, for your communities. God is waiting to be invited. God is waiting for you to open the door. God is waiting for you to offer your burdens and your afflictions. Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest." Come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest. When I was working as a chaplain at Swedish and Seattle Children's Hospital, I always had this passage with me, and I pray with it more than once a day. Come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest. Let me tell you a story of a patient. This was a man who did faith. who was diagnosed with a terminal disease. He and his wife pray that he may be healed. Many months later, in the last debilitating stages of the disease, he said to all that his prayers had been answered. And he said with all honesty, I have been healed. I have been healed. Yes, I have been healed. Not of my terminal disease, but I have been healed of my fear. I have been healed of my fear. Yes. Healing comes to us in many forms and ways that we do not expect. So, trust in a new world of possibilities for you, for your loved ones, for your community. Trust. Trust that good things will happen. Trust that good things will happen. Things far beyond your imagination and prediction. As you open the door to God, as you open the door to God, as you desire it, as you want it, healing will come to you. Healing will come to you. So Jesus can say to you, to us, your faith, your trust has healed you. Your desire to be well has healed you. Amen.